Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
Episode 70, buddy.
How you doing, man?
It's good. We're moving and grooving this week. You and I are in different locations because, man, there's so much going on.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Seattle sports. There's always something going on, and boy, oh boy, I'll say this, that it's really fun to see all these different teams doing some really great things or starting their seasons or in playoff pushes at the same time. It's really fantastic.
Well, you are all over the place. You have been for the last couple of weeks. You will be in the future. And of course, we're talking about the Mariners, which are the big story right now in Seattle. And there's other things going on just around the corner, too. That's what's exciting right now in the region. The Seattle Kraken starting their 5th season already. It's hard to believe.
Crazy.
And on this show, Kendall Tyson, who is the Senior Vice President of Finance and Business Intelligence. It's a big title. It is. Got some big ideas and talking about what the franchise is doing behind the scenes, off the ice. That's one of the things we like to talk about on this show. She will be coming up talking about what is different in Season 5, giving some hints as well. We're talking about those glow-in-the-dark uniforms, Niko. That's one of the things we're talking about in that interview will be coming up a little bit later on in the show. But what we like to do, there you go. It's right there, too. Yeah.
I was waiting. I'm like, why isn't he saying anything?
Yeah, those things glow in the dark. Hey, that's because we're not next to each other.
That's true.
We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. It's good conversation with Kendall Tyson. But first, what we like to do every week on Inside the Arena, talk about what's good, what's bad, off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. We like to touch them all 4 corners. A lot of what the Mariners are doing right now, touching all 4 bases. Niko, what do you like this week?
Oftentimes, Chris, when we do the 4 corners, I'm like, how great are Seattle sports? And obviously, certainly I mean it with every bit of what I am. But I'll say this, is there a brighter example than what we're seeing this weekend with the idea that, Saturday you have Mariners playoffs and Sounders all going on in Soto. Sunday, you have Mariners playoffs and Seahawks going on all at the same time in Soto. And there's just not a lot of sports cities in the world, quite frankly, that can have multiple sports at the highest level with incredibly meaningful games going on simultaneously. And certainly this isn't the first time. There's been times we have 5 teams all in action on the same day. It's just such a cool thing to sit back and take stock of. Now, we'll feel a lot better, when the outcomes go the right way. But I think that it's, wow, you just look at that and say, you look at Sunday and say, you can start your day at Lumen Field, the Seahawks, Bucks, throwbacks jerseys, cool game, big game. And then when that's over, you can just walk right over to T-Mobile Park and see Game 2 of the American League Divisional Series. I mean, what a cool thing for any Seattle sports fan to be able to partake in.
And remember, folks, you cannot park there on Friday. Right. And try to keep your car in the same spot all the way through Sunday night.
It's not a bad idea, but it's not okay.
You are going to maybe want to walk from downtown or walk from somewhere to try and get in, especially on Sunday with really what is an unprecedented back-to-back, Niko, I would say, with 67,000 plus at Lumen and 47,000 plus at T-Mobile, 115,000 fans. In a 5-hour block of time, so to speak. It's probably going to be a transportation planner's worst nightmare. But if you are a Seattle sports fan, it's one of your dreams to see something like this happening on the same day.
And especially with the rarity of the Mariners in the playoffs, obviously their second bid in just 24 years, 25 seasons. So, yeah, really, really amazing things to see that you get to experience that. It might be a logistical nightmare and things like that, but you know what? We get to have it, and it's in our place, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and as people point out, there's also a couple of events at Climate Pledge. They're 5 cruise ships in town. There's a convention with 6,000 people expected in downtown. It is perhaps, I think we hear Taylor Swift a lot, and that weekend in recent memory in terms of the traffic and pedestrian impacts. But it's a good problem to have. That's a lot of business coming into the city of Seattle, a lot of tax revenue coming in to the region that helps other programs. We've talked about that on.
I feel like somebody did a story on that.
Yeah, so somebody did a story on that. Watch that on KOMO News. So it's a financial windfall for the city that benefits a lot of different programs, and that is also a good thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I think is also good. As I mentioned off the top, the Kraken about to get underway. They've had a few preseason games, and the roster is still getting settled out here in year 5. But we know year 1 is about to begin now officially for the Professional Women's Hockey League in Seattle, just known right now as PWHL Seattle. Hopefully we have an official name soon, but we do have an official schedule, and they have announced through the league that the first game will be on Friday, November the 28th. So we know they're going to begin in the month of November. It's my understanding, and Niko, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's also some Kraken games around that holiday weekend. It's going to be a big weekend for hockey, especially for the launch of that new Professional Women's Hockey League team. Hillary Knight, already you could call her the face of the franchise, the face of U.S. hockey, women's hockey, and she will be the face of that new franchise.
Yeah, that's going to be special. And, the 15 home dates for the PWHL team to be named in Seattle, it's going to be really cool. And again, you think about the growth of that game in our city since the arrival of the Kraken, the way the Kraken built the Iceplex as a community thing. I mean, shoot, you go there for a Kraken practice, and then within 20 minutes, there's, a men's league or a youth league or something out there. And certainly this is the next step. And this is something that's really special, that we are really using the arrival and the bringing of an NHL franchise to Seattle into absolutely growing the game in every possible aspect in our city. And certainly that continues at a huge level now with the PWHL. So I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. And
allegedly, in terms of season tickets compared to the rest of the league, they're higher than the rest of the league right now in terms of the pre-season ticket sales and getting people signed up for packages. I think a couple things are interesting in that schedule already. There's a couple of dates, locations TBD. I wonder if there's going to be a Vancouver-Seattle matchup somewhere else, perhaps to grow the game as well, or in another city, which would take away from the 2 new expansion franchises. But it's a fun thing, I think, for the city of Seattle.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So what don't you like?
Okay, so this is something that a lot of Seattle sports fans have lamented for some time now, but I'm going to bring it back up because it kind of reared its ugly head again when the Huskies hosted number 1 Ohio State. It's this idea that, listen, if you have a ticket, you are allowed to sell it. Like, if you can't make the game, you shouldn't have to eat the cost. Nobody's saying that. But it feels like a lot of our local fans are selling the tickets, and it's going to other teams. I mean, Ohio State, when they did something good against the Huskies in their 24-6 win over UW, it was almost as loud as when UW did something well. Yeah. And this is something we've seen, especially with 49er fans at Seahawks games, a couple other fan bases, but mainly the 49ers is what comes to mind. And again, I'm not going to tell you can't sell your ticket. Like, that's your right. You paid for it. But there's got to be a way that we can prevent the other teams from taking over our stadiums. Or you think about a Seahawks game specifically, like, there's a wait list for people to have season tickets to those games. They would do anything to have that ticket that you're selling to somebody from the Bay Area. And I'm not saying this as an argument because I have the answer, because I don't. I'm just saying I don't like it. The fact that Ohio State and their red and gray or whatever colors they are, my gosh, that was everywhere on the side of the stadium that's on Lake Washington. And again, they did something good. I'll give UW credit. They played a hard-fought game. 24-6 really wasn't indicative of, like, you see that, you think it was a blowout. It was 14-6 with about 10 minutes to go. It was a close game. But when Ohio State especially pulled away, it was as loud as any UW cheer during that game, and so, and we know Husky fans are very loud, and we know that place is a tough place to play, but it was negated a bit by a lot of secondary market, folks buying tickets in that way.
Yeah, I would say I was there, and I sat in the stands and sat on the lake side, on the east side of the stadium in the open area, and really that the one side of the field seemed like there was a lot of red, a lot of Ohio State fans, and it was loud in the stadium. But you're right. Anytime the Buckeyes made a play, it did seem like wait, I am in Seattle, right? It was there were a lot of fans, and I think there is a little bit of precedent. Wasn't it a few years ago with the Kraken playoff tickets? There was an attempt to limit it to just local buyers.
Yeah.
Still
about the zip codes or something. I can't remember, but yeah.
The zip codes and making sure that there weren't more out-of-town buyers to try and preserve the bowl does seem on the surface it's a tough thing to manage for any team because somebody who lives locally can still try and sell the tickets. But we have seen in other parts of the world, especially in the Premier League, how those tickets are managed and how they're only sold through people who have been longtime season ticket holders, and there's no StubHub sales that are allowed. That's illegal in the UK. I can't see it going to that level, at least locally. But you're right. This is a trend not only at Husky Stadium but Lumen Field as well.
Yeah, and it's not a good one. And I think you look at the Seahawks and their home record. Last year they were, 3-6 at home, and I'm not saying that's the reason why, but they've made it an emphasis. Well, we gotta win, we gotta do this. Well, that's all true, but when Niner fans are taking over the thing, like you haven't won or lost that game yet. You know what I'm saying? Like It has impacted the atmosphere that was so beneficial to the Seahawks, and in this case, the Huskies for so many years.
Well, I will tell you what I also think is bad this week, and it's the end of Root Sports.
The
Mariners' final home broadcast was the final broadcast for Root, and really that news kind of came in the last week of the Mariners season. A lot of people had been guessing that it was going to happen just with how regional sports networks are going, not only here locally but around the country. We have seen teams now transition to other platforms. We've seen that with Kraken going over the air. We've seen the Storm going over the air with KOMO and KUNS. That has been the trend over the last couple of years. And with Root Sports, the Mariners are moving their broadcasts under the Major League Baseball umbrella. Still to be determined on how fans will access those games, but it's likely going to be straight through Major League Baseball. Straight through a package that you'll buy and be able to watch on your TVs and on your devices. But that's not good news for anybody who has worked there. There already had been some layoffs, but this is definitive. The people who have worked there, the 25 or so employees that were still working there, including the people that you've seen on TV and Brad and Angie and Jen, they are could perhaps go to the Major League Baseball broadcast. We know that Jen Mueller has already said she will not. But that's just that's the end of an era. I mean, my first paying TV job was with what was called Prime Sports Northwest, doing sidelines for Washington State Cougar broadcast way back when. I don't want to date myself, but
it's okay.
Prime Sports became Fox Sports, became Root, and there might have been something even in between in terms of the branding. But people had worked there for a very long time, and it was part of the Northwest culture. And it's sad to see them go, even though we know that there will be some new incarnation here next year.
Yeah, and some of them, as you mentioned, will be over, and that's wonderful news on that front. But it is the end of an era, and for how maybe inaccessible Root became in the later years as far as cable packages and stuff, it didn't diminish that. Boy, oh boy, those people have really narrated us through some really fun times these last few years. I still get chills over Dave Sims' Root call when Cal hit the home run to end the drought. Aaron Goldsmith is amazing as they come, and it doesn't need any accolades for me, that's for sure. And then, of course, you think about Jen dodging the Gatorade Bass, Angie and Brad Adam, and certainly the analysts like Ryan Roland Smith in his first year with the team. So, again, a lot of those folks will be in the new iteration as that becomes more clear after this season. But, it is going to be different, and it's the end of an era. It's a nostalgia thing, and it's something that while it felt like this was coming down the line, you just still don't want to see it happen in any way, shape, or form. And I feel for everybody there, not just the folks who lost their jobs, but the folks that will carry on and will miss their coworkers, no question.
And Brad Adam, by the way, might be one of the nicest humans working.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime I've seen him at the ballpark, giving me knuckles, going around and saying hi to everybody in the press box, a nice human being. And we're going to hope that he is part of the broadcast next year as well.
Definitely.
All right. Well, this is a weird transition, but the Supersonics used to be on Root Sports as well. And we always like to talk about what's going on with the NBA's potential return to Seattle. And I'm afraid to tell you this week, Niko, there's not a lot to report. We have talked the last couple of weeks about the NBA's now perceived focus on NBA Europe and building out a league there, perhaps as early as 27, 28. We have seen some movement in Portland with potentially a lawsuit there that could drag out the sale of the Blazers. Which is something that people who are interested in the business side of sports are paying attention to. If that has any sort of repercussions in Seattle, with a more than $4 billion price tag for that potential sale to the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes. But as of right now, as we sit here, nothing really new to report about any sort of renewed talks about the NBA returning to Seattle.
Hopefully by next week.
But in the interim, we can talk about the team that is inside Climate Pledge Arena. That's the Seattle Kraken. Kendall Tyson, the Senior Vice President of Finance and Business Intelligence. She is way smarter than me, and you will hear what she has to say about the new season right after this.
Luxury has arrived at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. The hotel is officially open. Book now for an unforgettable experience. Enjoy sweeping cascade views, a new sports bar, and play your favorite games. Visit snowcasino.com for details. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
All right, Kendall Tyson, thank you so much for doing this with the Seattle Kraken, the Senior Vice President, Finance and Business Intelligence. Thank you for coming inside the arena.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk about your background coming to the Kraken. I think for people that have followed the franchise, they know the history. They know the history with your brother as well, who's always a smiling face around the Kraken Community Iceplex every time I see him, or at Climate Pledge Arena. How did you get interested in the Kraken? How did you come to the Kraken? There's a fun story to tell.
Yeah. So my interest in hockey, goes kind of long before my time here in Seattle. We grew up in Minnesota, which we often call the state of hockey. And the story I'd tell people, hockey in Minnesota is like football in Texas. We've got the same like Friday night lights. The entire high school comes out to watch the teams every night, and it's the place to be seen. And the hockey teams, even at the high school level, are on a pedestal that's completely different. Everybody's thinking about hockey and talking about hockey. And so I grew up in that ethos. And I also got further drawn into hockey when my dad became the team doc for the Minnesota Wild. And that really kind of introduced me to the NHL and professional hockey at a time when I was late middle school, early high school years, and had a chance to watch just some amazing games and see what it was like for Minnesota to have an expansion team at that time, and that fun and excitement. And so when I moved to Seattle back in 2017, and even then, there was starting to be some buzz about, a potential franchise coming to the Seattle area. I was very much keeping my ear to the ground. At the time, I was working for Topgolf, leading business development for them, but was always very interested in, what it would look like to be kind of more formally at a team and in sports, and always had a strong interest in hockey. And so one day there was a meeting on an ice rink between my brother Kyle and Todd Lywicki, which led to a coffee chat and then multiple interviews for not just me, but actually for both of us, which was really, really special when we were both hired to work for what was then NHL Seattle back in 2019. Me as a VP of Business Intelligence, primarily focused on building operational and financial models for senior leadership to help make some of those early decisions. And then Kyle to lead fan growth and fan development, particularly from like a grassroots perspective and kind of growing the game of hockey from what it was already here and then just taking it to the next level.
Well, I cannot believe that we're sitting here talking in year 5. As you know, I've talked so much about the arena and the Kraken over time, and it's like when you stand there at Climate Pledge and you're like, okay, yeah, this was actually built during the pandemic, and we're already 5 years into this franchise. It's sometimes it's hard to think how much time flies and how quickly it does. But we are in year 5. We've seen year 1, all the buzz, year 2, the playoffs, year 3 and 4, we've seen changes off the ice. What's new this year for the Seattle Kraken as we head into season 5?
Yeah, I think one of the big pieces through all 4 seasons that we've really been kind of leaning into and focused on is making data-driven decisions. And so as we've kind of had a chance to now kind of collect data over the course of the past 4 years, we've really been able to analyze it and better understand what our fans are looking for and what changes we think would best suit them. And so over the summer, we launched Kraken Reinvention, which really had 2 components. One, I would say, was for our season ticket members. How do we make them feel extra valued and making sure that that experience is, one of the best in the business? First piece was around reducing the prices. We then added flexibility. So now in the GA spaces, you could have a 1-year term and kind of meet that need as people's lives just continue to change year over year. We added a 25% discount. That was super fun. As a season ticket member, even at the preseason game, I was like, oh, here's 25% off for my kids' ice cream. Excellent. So that was really, I think, going to be a really benefit that people lean into and see value in. And then the last piece was getting those fans closer to the players. So offering these chart your own course, new experiences. We just had one where fans could skate on the ice at Climate Pledge Arena and then visit the Kraken locker room. And we just got some really awesome feedback from people that, it's different. There's coming to a game, but then there's having, that real like player experience and walking through the tunnel and seeing where they come through and being down there. And we're really trying to make those unique experiences as an opportunity to bring fans closer to the Kraken and also closer to our players. And then the second piece was for all fans. One of the big things that we hear, a lot is, families, like how do you make it easier for families to come to games? And families look different, right? And some families, a Tuesday night works great for them because they don't have any kid activities. Other families, they need a Saturday or a weekend night. And so one of the big changes we made was we made those bundles where you can get 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, sodas, popcorn, all for any game to give that flexibility to families and allow them a full opportunity to come see the Kraken play. And then the last one was around the home opener and creating that 6-game pack and some of those more different theme packs where people can choose based on their lifestyle. So if they want to come to all the weekends or they prefer to come midweek due to work, whatever works for them, we tried to create opportunities for people to find the right tickets that fit their need. What else? Oh, jersey. We got to talk about that. That was
I'm curious to see how this is going to work if the players are playing with the lights on. By the way,
you know what? The good news is I've seen it in the team store and it looks good with the lights on. I have seen photos of what it looks like with the lights off, and it looks pretty epic. I think I've started to see a few pieces on social where people are getting their jerseys, and man, I think you see them and you're just like, whoa, that looks cool. So
it's gonna be great for the lights out game too.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I think, what was that, season 3?
Okay, for people that don't understand what we're talking, the third jersey is going to have a luminescence, a glow in the dark aspect to it. So I'm going to guess by the time people hear this, we may already know, but I'm going to guess there's going to be something in the pregame that's going to kind of play off that. But
oh yeah, yeah. I don't think I'm revealing that. I think we always generally operate, in the dark with the abyss, and especially in the pregame show, it's very theatrical. So I have no doubt that somehow the theatrics for these games will incorporate the glow.
Well, talking about data, I mean, how are you collecting the data? Is this just through kind of turnstile, people scanning their tickets? Is it through surveys with fans and what they're asking for? How are you collecting the data?
Yeah, I think, one of the interesting pieces about kind of data over time and kind of how it's made its way, particularly kind of into driving decisions and really into financial decisions as well, is as the technology has evolved, we went through the era of big data, right? And everyone was just trying to collect everything. But then, it's less about collection and how are you using it. And so what we've done and what we kind of had a benefit as this team is that because when we started, we were already kind of in the midst of the big data era, we got to set up our platform the exact way we wanted it. Whereas other teams, they're trying to piece together lots of legacy systems, years and decades of data from the past, where we got a chance to like start fresh and really have a chance to like start with a clean data set, which is, a dream. And so we use both the data from the data set, but we also recognize the importance of qualitative data as well. So we have lots of listening sessions that we host with season ticket members and the casual fans to kind of get the conversation going. Because sometimes, you just end up finding out things as people just talk. And I think that's been really helpful for us. We also do a season ticket member survey. When that launched in our first season, we were one of few clubs in the NHL that did an annual season ticket member survey. Clubs would do it, when they were thinking about making a big change, but we were really adamant, like, no, we want to hear from our season ticket members every year. And we actually do it twice a year because we like to see, okay, how are you feeling about things in December? Now, how are you feeling about things in May? What's changed? What's changed year over year? What's kind of changed period to period. And so I think that's really, really important. Post-game surveys is another one that we do, and that goes to all fans. And that helps us find things like in the moment, right? Which is kind of like, hey, I'll give a great one, ice cream. First season, we had one ice cream stand. I think we now are going to go into this season with like 5. There's ice cream everywhere. And that is just, it's one of those things where you're like, wow, we're selling a lot of ice cream. Do you think we could, like you hear in the post-event surveys, people are like, man, the line for ice cream was so long. Had a great time. And then it's like, all right, well, like, let's just add one more on the main concourse. Still, like, line is long. Add one upstairs, add ones in the club. Like, I mean, it's almost like we can't have enough ice cream. So it's those surveys help us, kind of get to those kind of tactical day-to-day things of like, all right, here's where we need to solve. What kind of pieces do we need to move around? How do we make sure people are having a great experience, like from one game to the next?
I will say I was shocked the other day at Lumen Field for a Sounders match that, to your point on ice cream, the ice cream line was longer than any beer line or food line in the building. I was shocked. I didn't know that ice cream was such a hot item, especially on a rainy day.
Seattleites, summer, winter, doesn't matter. Game fair, number 1 food, ice cream.
So you are looking at all these analytics, and I know that you're proud of the Amazon just get in technology. How do you want to describe it? The Amazon technology where you just walk in and just walk out and grab your food. And Climate Pledge was one of the first buildings to do that. Now it seems like you see it everywhere. I've seen some other things inside the building, inside other buildings. For instance, at a Washington Capitals game, you can pour your own beer. which seems like an interesting concept at their arena. I've also seen at Chelsea's stadium in London the idea that you use a kiosk to order your beer for halftime, and you take a ticket and you just go up to the counter and grab your beer and don't make any sort of transaction. I mean, what kind of trends, what kind of things are you looking at potentially for future Kraken games like that, or at Climate Pledge Arena for other events?
Yeah, I think we're always evolving, and we do a little bit of, like, we call it like an innovation tour each year, where we go and look at kind of what other arenas are doing, and we're always in contact with other folks from other teams. I think one of the biggest pieces is looking not just like what's year over year, but thinking about Climate Pledge is brand new. But how are we planning for, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, maybe, even 5 years from now? The biggest piece is the technology, right? Even the technology that was available to us 5 years ago when we built the stadium is drastically different than what you look at when you go into like an Intuit Dome, or like, something that was, built just within the last year. And so a lot of it is a little bit of kind of waiting to see what sticks, and really getting an understanding of like, what do our fans like? What's great in one market is maybe not what works out for us. And so what we like to do is, like, we go on these tours, we see some of those innovations, and then we come back to our fans and say like, hey, if we did self-pour beer, is that like attractive, not attractive? Is it more efficient, less efficient? So, and ask those questions so that make sure that what we're putting in there really is like, what the fans want. One thing that we have changed is we talk a lot is vending of like healthier, if you want to call it that, foods. So like if you were like, I really want a salad, or like a quinoa bowl, or a turkey and cheese sandwich. We now have these like vending machines. There's one that's like right across from the team store, where you have like that list of like all those options in like one place, versus like kind of trying to like find them around the concourse. So that's one of the pieces that we've like kind of said like, okay, we want to have these options, but no one wants to like run around the concourse to like find them. So how do we make sure how can we put them in a single spot that people know like every time where to go? So that's one example. I think the pregame show continues to be like awesome and exciting, whether we introduce the lasers and how that looks and like enhances that experience, and just continuing to look for opportunities to really kind of take that experience to the next level will be really exciting.
Well, I will say that pregame show in the first year was the best one, because they had this guy do some voiceover work for that first year. Who was really good. And I love that I made two examples just now of beer that I've seen at other stadiums, and you went straight to the healthy food Climate Pledge Arena. So I don't know what that says about me. Let's close with this. I mean, season 5 talked about kind of the ebb and flow of the first 4 years. What are you excited about for this new season?
Yeah, I think what I'm most excited about is how we continue to have new fans. So right now we have on average between 1,000 and 2,000 new fans every game. Like, that is a lot of people that are experiencing Kraken hockey for the very first time on a night after night. And I love talking to those people and seeing that just like shock, of like, you walk into the bowl and you've got the glass on the back and the lighting, and it's beautiful, right? And you just see so many people that are like, wow, you see people taking pictures in front of the living wall. There's still a magic about that building and about seeing Kraken hockey, where it's not like, oh, everybody in here has been before, right? There's still so many people that are seeing it for the first time, and seeing their faces and their excitement always just brings me so much joy. I also think, hey, it's season 5. I think a lot of our season ticket members are now kind of, like I said, in that groove of the feedback. And so I'm very curious and excited to see kind of what ideas stem from their sessions and from listening to them, and kind of how we take that and make that experience, even better than what it is. And I think we'll just continue to do that. And they always have great ideas. So I'm always all ears.
Well, and I was joking, Kendall. I had my voice in the first season of the show open. It's way better in season 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now with the Kraken spending so much time and effort on basically making a movie that is customized for every show open. It's way better after that first year. I was just joking.
I always tell people, they're like, "Oh, I'm coming to a game with my friend." I'm like, you have to be in your seats to see the open. Even year 1, Chris. It was still okay.
Well, Lamont and his team have continued to build that and make it a show. And yes, it's definitely something that's part of coming to a Kraken game. So,
absolutely.
Well, Kendall, Tyson, thank you for doing this. I think a lot of people are excited about season 5 with Seattle Kraken. So there you go. Kendall, Tyson, great conversation talking about what's new. I do love the fact that she talked about the health food options inside the arena, and I was talking about the beer options that I've seen other places. I think that tells you a difference between Kendall and I. Always a great smiling face at the Kraken Community Iceplex or Climate Pledge Arena when you see her.
Yeah, and I can't wait to be back in Climate Pledge on a regular basis. It's been a couple weeks since the storm season wrapped up, and it's like I already missed the place. So having the Kraken get the preseason going, and of course the home opener October 9th, is going to be a lot of fun.
But you've got some things to do before.
Yeah, hey, baseball playoffs. Let's go. Hopefully we'll be doing some remote shows like this through the end of October. That sounds like a fun plan to me. What about you?
It sounds great, and I'm sure that no matter where we record, there's one thing that will happen at the end of our show.
David Lee will take us out.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.